Hey, my friend, welcome back to the Wealthy Coach Podcast. I am your host, Kendra Perry, and this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode today, but I just want to address something that I've been hearing over and over and over again, just to make sure I am extra clear. Now, this is what I'm hearing all the time from coaches and practitioners that I'm talking to online because I'm really been talking a lot about signature programs lately. And people are like, yeah, like I love the concept, like it seems cool, but I don't want to offer a program because I don't believe in a one size fits all approach. And I get it, right? You became a coach or practitioner because you believe people are unique, you value personalized support, and you know that generic advice doesn't really work. Totally get that. But what if I told you that having a structured signature program is actually the best way to give your clients personalized support and better results? Now, I know where this sort of objection fear stems from. A lot of certification programs are teaching high touch, super customized coaching. Don't niche, work with all kinds of people, help them with what they need help with. And you want to be opposite to the conventional broken healthcare system, right? In conventional healthcare, there's not a lot of personalization, there's not a lot of support. It really depends where you live in the world, but in Canada, we don't get much because we have socialized medicine and we get to spend maybe 5-10 minutes with our doctor. So we get a lot of one size fits all approach. And I know as an ethical practitioner, you care deeply about your clients, right? You don't want to shove everyone into the same box and sort of spit them out on the other side. But what I want to tell you is having a structured program, structure does not equal sameness. It actually equals strategy for you and your clients. Okay. Now, if you've been working with clients for any amount of time, even if you haven't niched down, you may have noticed that you repeat yourself a lot. Usually when I bring this up on a live event, I'm like, repeating yourself can make you really tired. It can make you feel really burned out. I usually get like, oh my God, I'm repeating myself all the time. And so because we're already repeating ourselves, like why not take that repetition and package it into a cohesive roadmap, right? You're not out there wanting to bake 12 different cakes. You're baking the same base cake and then adding different toppings based on what people need. So clients actually don't need 100% customization. They need a roadmap. And truthfully, you have a background based on what you've done for your own health. You have professional training. You have a perspective. You have a unique perspective and philosophy, right? Like it would be pretty rare for you to work with a client and you would tell one client, I think you should go vegan, totally plant-based, and then to tell another client to go carnivore. That's usually not how it is. Usually you have a sort of opinion or perspective. Like you think plant-based is more important, or you think maybe being protein-based, meat-based is more important, right? Typically, we're not saying you be keto, you be vegan, you be carnivore, you be FODMAPs, right? Like usually we have a perspective around sleep, around lifestyle, around diet, around testing. And so yes, people are unique, but we're actually all very similar. Like our bodies kind of work the same. And so what we want to do is create a repeatable process, but one that still allows for customization. Sometimes when I teach this in a live format, I talk about making a book, right? Because we've all read a health book or a personal development book where we read the book, we did the things, and we got a result, right? So that kind of shows us that it doesn't need to be fully customized because a book is not customized to us. It's sort of like a general baseline of information. So when you're creating a program, we want to think about what that baseline is. Like what do, in general, all our clients need to do in order to get the result? Now, niching down is really important with this because typically with certain health conditions, there is going to be some sort of baseline of information. For example, let's say anxiety versus acne, right? Like with anxiety, you're probably going to give people tools to help with panic and anxiety attacks in the moment, right? those things are going to be really important. They're going to be less important with like digestive distress or acne, right? Whereas acne, you might be giving people tools to help them feel more confident, going out into the world because they're so embarrassed about their skin, which obviously you're not going to necessarily give to the person with anxiety. So when we niche down, this is the first step in helping us create a repeatable process, right? Because we're not going to write a book on just general health, right? We're going to pick a topic to write a book on. You're never going to get a book deal if you're like, I help people with health, right? You're going to get a book deal because you reversed your Hashimoto's and now you help other women do the same, right? So the first thing we want to do is choose the niche, but then we want to think about what are the baseline things that everyone needs to do in order to get that result, right? Like think about if I could not have a conversation with this person, I could not email them, I could not jump on a Zoom call with them, I could not call them on the phone, could not get on Vox or WhatsApp with them, but they were basically emailed in, said, I want a protocol, and without knowing anything about them, just knowing that they had a certain problem, they were a certain type of person, what would you tell them to do? You would have something to say. You wouldn't say, I don't know. If I had a gun to your head and I said, you got to make a protocol for this person, you wouldn't let me shoot you. This is kind of dramatic and intense, but I hope I'm making my point. You would say, okay, well, this is what I tell them to do. And that would be based on your philosophy, right? And your perspective and your experience and what you've seen work with yourself or with other clients. So very, very important. So what would that be? Because truthfully, it's not like you would tell one client, well, I think you need to go to bed at 9 o'clock and you need to go at 10 o'clock, bed at 10 o'clock and you should go to bed at 1 a.m. You would say, hey, I think you need to get to sleep before 10:30 p.m. because research shows that that's when you get the most amount of deep sleep or whatever, right? You would basically be telling people the same thing. So the first thing is to find the commonality in what you tell everyone to do, right? Maybe you believe in like a Whole30, Whole Foods type diet. Great. Now, again, does this mean that we don't customize? No. We customize on top of that because within a signature program, it's not just an online course where people get no access to you. It's actually a high touch program. So people get that step-by-step roadmap that you believe everyone generally needs to do at a minimum. But then we customize based on interaction with the client, based on intake, if you do that, based on lab testing, if you do that, based on troubleshooting, based on the conversations that you have with the person. For example, you say, okay, I think you need to eat like a Whole30 style diet. You give them all the information. And they say, hey, I've noticed that when I eat eggs, I'm feeling a bit bloated or something like that. And you say, okay, great. Let's take out eggs and do this instead. Or, oh, based on your food sensitivity test, eggs came up. So even though I'm telling you to eat a Whole30 diet, which eggs are included, you're going to avoid eggs for 90 days. So see what I mean? There is still customization in this. You just need to find the baseline so that you're not repeating yourself over and over and over again. And this is not only helpful for you in that the education piece of what you do is not happening in the Zoom call, in the phone call. You're not having to reteach what you teach and say the same thing over and over. You present people with a methodology that is in video modules, in audio modules, in PDFs, whatever works best for you and your clients, but it's a roadmap. And you say, hey, you're going to follow this roadmap, but we're probably going to make some adjustments to your roadmap based on your lab tests, based on your intake, based on what we see come up as we work through the program. Okay. So they don't need 100% customization. They need some customization, but if you're helping people with the same problem and they're the same type of person, like, teachers in their 30s with anxiety, nurses in their 40s with burnout, right? They're generally going to need a similar roadmap with a few customizations, right? We can think of this as climbing a mountain. I'm going to give you the same map to get to the top of the mountain, but based on who you are, we might execute that plan a little bit differently, right? Oh, Jan, it's your first time hiking. You've never hiked before. Well, we're going to go a little bit slower. Oh, David, you have a bit of a tweaky knee. Well, we're going to actually go the way that is a bit longer in distance, but it's less steep, right? Do you see what I'm saying here? So what a signature program actually is you can think of it like a structured journey with milestones, guidance, and flow. It's built on that unique methodology, which is your brain in a box, right? Based on your professional education, your experience, your philosophy, what you believe is going to be helpful for these people. But we're going to structure that into that baseline so that we can teach this methodology, we can teach this roadmap out of session. So that even if you decide to run this program as a purely one-on-one program with no group component, it still gives you back your time. Because when we're just meeting with people one-on-one and we're doing all the teaching in session, we probably need like a 60, 75-minute session. Truthfully, people are really busy these days. People don't have a lot of time. But what if they could get the same results with maybe a 30-minute session or 20-minute session every few weeks versus, a 60, 75-minute session every couple of weeks, because the education happens out of session. So what a signature program is not is a 10-module course that is just education, because it's not about education. It's about simplifying things. The education is all online. We live in the age of information. I can ask ChatGPT anything and it will give me information. What your people need help with is basically narrowing down the information that's actually important for them. Because when they're going online and they're trying to figure out how to solve their anxiety, they're seeing 15 different types of diets and all these different approaches, and they end up doing nothing because there's too much. So it's about you having this method. And yes, you can even create a method if you are new, even if you have no experience, because you've done professional education or you have experience solving your own problem. We test this over time. Like HCA today looks very different from HCA in 2020 because I adapt it, I improve it. I adapt it, I improve it. I change it over time, and it's gone through many iterations. And every year I'm making updates to it based on how I'm seeing my students interact with the content and their struggles and the new things that pop up, just like in health and wellness, the new research that comes out where you're like, wow, this one supplement, this one thing actually is really impactful for anxiety. So now I'm going to work that into my program. So it's about testing it over time. So you don't need a ton of experience. You gain the experience by creating the roadmap and then testing it with real people. Okay. But like I said, like that methodology, that roadmap is the baseline. Our customization comes from lab testing. If you do labs, you don't have to do labs. It comes from personalized protocols. It comes from intake. It comes from one-on-one check-ins. It comes from our Facebook group, right? It comes from custom supplement recommendations based on lab testing, based on intake, based on how we see people interacting and how they are experiencing the protocol, right? So hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully you now understand why this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I don't believe in one-size-fits-all approaches, right? If you come into HCA, am I giving you a roadmap? Yes. Are you generally doing the same thing as everyone else? Yes. Is there customization? Absolutely. We all have different businesses, different experiences. And sometimes I'll tell people to do the program in a different order, or I'll even tell people sometimes to do things that is a little bit outside the program because it makes sense for their business. So when you create structure and a unique methodology, again, it's not one size fits all, but it helps you have less burnout. You're not reinventing the wheel every single week. You have more clarity in your marketing and sales because you know who you're talking to, you know what you're selling. Your clients know what to expect. They feel like what you have is different than what they've done before. And again, in sales and marketing, it is so necessary in 2025. What you do needs to look different than what they've done before. So they need to know what to expect. They need to feel safe in the container. They need to know that they have a clear roadmap. They don't want just 12 modules. They don't want to just show up for Zoom calls and for you to send them the recording. They want to know that you are a professional with a repeatable process, with a structured roadmap that is organized and easy for them to follow. People don't want random. They want to know you know what the fuck you were doing, right? So again, even with a signature program, even with a unique methodology, even with that roadmap, you can still tailor the journey, right? You can still tailor it. So a signature program is not about fitting clients into a box. It's about giving them a structured container that allows for growth and allows for them to move from A to B to C to result. It serves you and them better. Okay. So you do not need to give up personalization to have a scalable business. Okay. Hopefully you can see that now. So if you're feeling the nudge to have your own signature program, if this has resonated with you, next week, registration for my 4-day free challenge, the Create and Sell Your Signature Program Challenge, where I will be giving training every day for free that is good enough that people would pay for, plus free coaching, free feedback on your niche, on your program, on your pricing, on your launch plan. That is opening up next week. We start things on September 8th, but registration opens next week. I will definitely be letting you know on the podcast, so stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in today. I will see you next Monday, same place, same time, where I help you become wealthy AF.